Hey friends, welcome back to Sermon Notes. I'm Amy Jo Girardier.
And my name is Garrett Gregory, and this gentleman is Dr. Mike Glenn.
Yay.
In the flesh.
Welcome to the show.
There it
Welcome
is.
back.
Well, thank you.
Glad
Good
to
to
have
be
you.
here.
So glad to have you.
Yes.
It's been a big week.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
It's been a good Monday.
You as well.
So we have lots to talk with you about. So,
Can't imagine what.
I mean, there was some news yesterday.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a re-emphasizing of old news,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because I announced in January that 23 was my last year in a role as senior pastor.
Right.
And so we've been working through this process of finding the next pastor and the long line of Brentwood Baptist pastors.
right.
So we're
That's
going
right.
after our third one in 53, 4, 5 years of history.
Yeah.
Church will have had two pastors, and we'll be getting ready to bring on our third one.
Yeah. And you talked about yesterday when you were talking about Gerald Stowe and that process. Talk with us a little bit about that and what the process has been like for you.
Well, it's several years ago. Gerald Stowe was the chair of the trustees at the time, and we began to talk about. At that time, I'd been here 25 years or something like that, and you know, it's the calendar changes whether you want to or not, and you know, you're getting closer to 60, closer to 65. And what does that mean for me? What does it mean for, you know, my energy? What does it mean for my focus? How do I want to finish that, you know, the bell lap, those kind of things. And then what does that mean for Brentwood Baptist Church? Now, Gerald was a longtime Baptist pastor, and both of us were keenly aware of what happens when the church is not prepared for a transition. Okay, what happens is the pastor stands up and says, I'm retiring.
Yeah.
When that announcement hits, the church stops. Okay, we're not going to do anything. We're going to celebrate Mike. We're going to have some parties and that kind of stuff. But we're not going to do anything until the new pastor gets here. We're not going to, start any initiatives. We're not going to, plan anything. We're going to wait on the new guy.
Right.
Okay, so when you do that, you turn the engines off. So while, we have been climbing, we've been growing, things have been going away, you turn the engines off. Now, there's enough propulsion that it appears that you're still growing, but you have turned the engines off. Okay, now, traditionally what would happen is I announce my retirement, we elect a pulpit committee. A pulpit committee would at best spend 1 year looking for a new pastor. Most likely would spend 2 years. Okay, so there is a year sitting around waiting for me to leave, 2 years to find the new guy. Okay, now what's the learning curve of Brentwood Baptist Church? We're a very unique congregation. The gift sets that we require of our senior pastor and the way our church runs is very, very different than most churches. So how long does it take the new pastor to learn how to lead Brentwood Baptist Church? So under that scenario, that would be 3 or 5 years that the church is literally dead in the water. You don't recover from that. As fast as everything is changing, as fast as you now need to respond, you don't recover.
Right.
And so I started looking at that and going, wait a minute, I'm going to spend 30 years of my life building a ministry, and it's going to disappear into dust.
Yeah. Just like that.
That's not a legacy I want to leave. That's not a future that I believe is in God's will for this congregation.
Yes, sir.
And so then you have to plan proactively going, okay, here are the processes that we'll have in place so when I pull the trigger, we know what to do. So it was under Gerald's leadership several years ago that we put the succession plan in place. Okay, when that happens, the trustees nominate the pastor search committee. The pastor search committee begins that process, and they announce it as soon as they have the candidate. Then the candidate and I will talk about the transition process of how I preach, he preaches, he preaches, I preach, so that we have that slide of transition where he increases in leadership and I step aside. So that's real smooth, and it happens, and the church can instead of going to the bell curve, we do the S curve.
Yes, sir.
I want it to look like that I was holding us back. I want the growth and everything to explode at such a rate that everybody's going to be shaking their head, going, "Well, when we got rid of Mike, then boy, we really got hold of things." Yeah. But listen, just between the three of us, we can name a dozen churches where we'll have this phrase: "That used to be a good church." That used to be a good church. I don't want to drive by here and somebody tell me, "Man, that used to be a good church."
Yeah.
That would kill me. That would just kill me.
That's good. Good.
You mentioned this will be the third guy
Third
coming
pastor,
in.
yeah.
You got Bill Wilson.
Bill stayed 20. I stayed 30. Next guy's got to stay 40.
Love it.
Good.
Love
Good.
it. Before the next guy gets here, obviously that's pending church vote that's coming soon, and dates are all out there for our congregation to see all 9 campuses. I want to know, if you peel everything back behind the curtain, how did you know it was time to transition from your role as senior pastor? How did you know it was time?
Well, the first thing is you don't want to stay too long. Everybody tells me, "Oh, you could have preached all day, man. You could have." Okay, do you know how thin that line is between "I wish he'd keep on preaching" to "I wish he'd shut up"? That is a razor line. And it's the same with your time in leadership. Right now everybody said, "Well, you don't rethink this, man. You're still in good health. Why don't you stay?" That's a good time to leave. Why they don't have to love you. They just kind of like you. If they still like you on your way out, that's a good time to leave. Basically, here's what happened. You've heard me say that I have pastored 4 or 5 churches at the same address.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're getting ready for another major transition. And that major transition, to walk the church through it and get the church through it, is going to be a 3 to 5 year commitment. And at 66, I just didn't want to make a 3 to 5 year commitment. I didn't think that was fair to the church.
Got it.
So, and it's going to include things like, for instance, everybody that was in leadership for most of my ministry has now retired, and now I'm working with their children. I've worked here long enough and served here long enough that the youth group are now my bosses, which is a freaky thing to sit there at the table going, "I hope I was nice to you.
Yeah.
I hope you haven't been carrying some kind of large grudge all these years." Because Brentwood 37027 has turned over. Okay, most of the people that were here when I moved here have moved out. They've sold their houses, they've downsized, they've stuff. Now we've got a whole new group of young adults with children.
Yep.
And people from other parts of the United States are all moving into Brentwood. It's an entirely different field.
Our subdivisions look like that too.
Yes.
Neighborhoods look like that.
Exactly right, which means Brentwood now has to retool to reach this new community. New leaders have to be developed. A new giving base has to be developed.
Yes, sir.
So that's a lot of work. It's exciting work. It's fun work. And if I was 20 years younger, I'd love to do it. But honestly, I just don't know that I could, in fairness to the church, make a 3 to 5 year commitment.
That makes sense.
Okay, so with all the things, I'm sure with the transition, you're thinking through future, but also what are some things that you are going to miss about being senior pastor?
Or the staff members you might miss most.
Yes.
Us on the couch, probably.
Let's see. Will I miss meeting? No, I won't miss.
No
I won't
meeting.
Hey,
miss
can you
any-
show us
I
your
won't- I won't
coffee
miss
cup
any of
over
that.
there?
Yeah.
Pardon? What you got? The coffee cup I noticed over there.
That's right. Yeah.
What does it say on it?
I've survived another meeting that should have been an email.
Won't miss the meetings.
So,
We do have a lot of meetings.
yeah,
We know how to do
and I have the patience of a gnat. So once we see the material, once we know everybody in the room knows what you got to do, well, let's do it.
Bye.
Okay. Well, we keep driving around the bus till everybody gets on it, and that drives me crazy. I will miss. People tell me all the time I wouldn't have your job because it's so hard, but they don't get to see what I see. I see small miracles every day. I see parents make stands. I see a teenager get bold in the faith. I see a couple make a decision about the quality and depth of their marriage. I see that kind of stuff all the time. That is what I will miss, and I will miss preaching to a people I know. You know, when I'm preparing a sermon, I know who's there. I know what's going on in their lives, and that really informs how you shape the scripture.
That's awesome.
Yeah, shape the sermon from the scripture. Yeah, you better would say it.
You think that's something as you drive off campus in the days to come, you think about that on the way home? I guess those memories kind of flood in a little bit, the things you miss most?
Yeah, but you know, there's always a grief when a season ends.
Yes, sir.
There's a grief. However, there is always an excitement about the new birth. If he's taking something out of your hands, it's because he wants to put something else in your hands. And if you hold on too tightly to what he's given you before, you're going to miss what he wants to give you now.
That's good.
You compared BBC to a rocket trajectory-wise.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What about BBC, if you get specific on it, has that sort of trajectory that you're liking right now as we approach this transition season?
Oh, gosh. In no particular order. We came out of COVID pretty strong.
Yes, sir.
Attendance is way up. Easter was phenomenal. And the thing that happens with attendance around here is that we'll spike up at Easter.
Okay.
And then we will spend the rest of the year growing to that number. So the spike in Easter attendance will soon become our average attendance. So that's pretty exciting. Giving is really strong. Despite everything that we're told about the economy and all that, our giving is real strong. We're debt free. So we'll be able to respond and move however God tells us to move. We are having a real emphasis on the training of leaders and groups. We've got more people in groups now than we've ever had, which is deepening discipleship, and that has all kind of ramifications. We are starting more campuses. We just celebrated the start of the West Columbia campus, and Fadi and I will be talking to two pastors this week and next week about what would happen if we added them to the Brentwood family. So,
Wow, that's a lot. A lot of good stuff.
There's some good things happening.
just in your spare
Just
time.
a few, yeah.
So Jay is going to be preaching this Sunday, right?
Uh-huh.
In view of a call.
Right.
Do you remember? I mean,
Oh,
it's been.
gosh.
I mean, do you
Oh.
remember yours?
Oh gosh, yes. I was a mere child.
Do you remember what it's on?
Yeah, the feeding of the 5,000.
Oh, did Brentwood choose that for you, or did you choose that? You had to choose.
The idea is in those days. Now everything has changed.
Right.
And,
It's been a long
it's
time.
been I thank you. Yes, it has been a long time. You know, we were still wearing coats and ties and
Wow.
everything. You know, so
How old were the boys?
boys were second grade.
My goodness.
So, in fact, Debo Morris was Chris's teacher when one of the first people we met when we moved here was
Absolutely.
Debo. Yeah, you're scared to death because you're literally preaching in front of Olympic judges. You know, and they're judging how you walk into the pulpit. They're judging how you sit, how you open the Bible. Do you open the Bible? What version of the Bible you own? Any one of these could get you voted out.
That's great.
Yeah. Not to mention, is the sermon coherent or anything like
Yeah.
that? So,
Wow. So feeding of the 5,000.
yeah.
It's great. So good. Does Jay get to? Well, he doesn't
Yeah.
get to pick. So because
Yeah.
it's,
Well,
that's a
he's going to
unique
stay with
situation. Yeah,
and believe it or not, he's going to stay with the sermon plan, and the sermon plan this week is Acts 13.
Yeah.
The theme verse of our church, running members off. And so almost like there was a plan,
Yeah. Right.
you know?
It's crazy.
You've had that first sermon, BBC 409. If you had to give Jay one nugget before he walks up there, or whatever it looks like walking into next week, what would you tell him?
Oh gosh, relax. You're among good people who love you and who want you to succeed. And so you don't have to prove anything. I would tell Jay, we know who you are, so just be you, and trust what God has been doing in you and through you up to this point.
Sir.
Trust that God has prepared you to step into this moment, and trust that this church has been prepared to step into this moment.
Love it.
It's good.
Well, on the website, you're going to see all sorts of dates, times, things coming forward as far as town halls, in view of a call Sunday here at the Brentwood campus.
Can you believe I was sitting there on the front row when they named the guy who's going to replace me? Man, I was like sitting there.
How'd that feel?
Hey, here's the guy going to take your job.
Did you smile or were you sad?
Well, there's always a grief.
Yep.
But
It's bittersweet.
I have known Jay 20 plus years now, and watching him grow, I just really could not be more excited and pleased. As I've told him all these times we've been, going over the sermons and going over videos and watching the game film and all that, and said, one day I may have to sit down out there and listen to you. And I don't want to be going, man, you blew that intro. You should have come down with that point and all that. I don't want to be doing that.
I love it. Well, Mike, we appreciate you.
That's right.
Thanks for your leadership. One is our leader and pastor, and we can't thank you enough. So thank you for the time to even come and sit here today. And really, it's kind of fun for me and AJ to walk through the behind the scenes of what's going on as you kind of walk to this moment and walk through this moment, and the handoff happens to prospective candidate, that is Jay Strother at Church in Station Hill. All the stuff as far as timing, dates, it's all on the church website. So if you go to brentwoodbaptist.com, you can pick a campus from there and roll through those, and it'll give you all the information. Thanks for following us on this podcast here. We love doing this. We hope you love it as well. You can smash the subscribe button wherever that is located on your screen, and we'll be back next week. We look forward to it. Thank you for the time, and Mike, thanks for everything that you have
Glad to be here. Anytime.
will continue to mean to us.
I'll have a little more time from now on. So that'll be.
It's a weekly thing happening around here. Have a great day, y'all, and we'll see you soon.